So as I mentioned, this is for the ACA-920. Um, that said, even if you don't want to take this exam and earn this certification, this is still useful information because it teaches you how to use Confluence. Everywhere I have worked, without exception, I've never had training for this. I've had to figure it out. My first experience with it, many of you have heard this story. All of my training was just someone pointing at a screen and saying, "Here is how to log in," and that was not a good experience. That didn't really work well for me. I figured it out, but it made it very hard to do my job. I was working at a tech company. I didn't want to have to fight with the system, and many folks have that problem. Rebecca, welcome. I'm in the Bay Area, California. Hranar, I hope I'm saying that right. Welcome from Iceland. Judy, welcome from Illinois. I've had a career in IT and mostly systems related roles, so that's the lens that I think of Confluence through. It is, of course, by no means the only way to think about Confluence. It works for any kind of collaboration, knowledge base, etc. So please don't let that limit your thinking as to what Confluence can do or help you out with. And I don't have a lot of spare time, so that's why these are early in the morning. Someone asked me why they're at 6 at one point, and it's because this is when I have to do this. I have a family, I've got other stuff going on. George, welcome from Michigan. Susan from New Mexico. This is intended to be a study session, so this isn't just Rob talking. You can, of course, take it as that, by all means, as long as, if that's useful, but you might get more out of it using the chat. Many folks have already found them. I'm very sorry, Hranar. I joke that I barely speak English, so when there's a name that I'm unfamiliar with, I do my best. But please, I'll see if I can figure that out. But my apologies. But please use the chat. I will ask questions in there, and other people will also interact. One thing I really like about these sessions is there's been 5 or 6 folks who are consistently here. I won't name names. Maybe I will. We've got the Chad. We've got who else? Susan's been in here quite a bit. Where's Emily? Anna, Ansia. So please, interact with each other as well. If you see someone asking a question and you know an answer or you have an idea, please pitch in. That's really neat. Also, it helps me out if you could like and subscribe. Lets me know what you're looking for. And I will be doing more of these ACA trainings. I started with a 920 because it's the only certification I have from Atlassian, and so I figured it would be a good place to start. It is also right now the only Confluence certification, which makes me sad because there are so many other certifications for different systems. Just this one. A quick agenda. So we'll talk about some slides. I always start with these just to ground us and give us all, if you so choose, Emily. I don't have any expectations. Terry, welcome from Victoria. I grew up partially in Vancouver, so very familiar with the area. We'll talk about some concepts around pages, which is what this session is about. Basic pages and editing. And for me, pages are important because it's what most people think of when they're thinking of content in Confluence. There's other content, of course, but we all tend to think of pages because that's where the meat of the stuff is. And that's why a lot of this certification is around pages. So we're going to dig a lot into that with some concepts and ideas, and then we're going to get hands-on in Confluence Cloud Premium. The only thing I'll be showing you today that for sure is only in Premium or Enterprise is going to be Atlassian Intelligence, and that's their AI stuff. But otherwise, I'll do my best to call out, what is specifically in Premium. I didn't realize that there was a dab emoji. Hang on, how do I put that on? There we go. This little fella. Emojis have come a very long way from when I was younger. So a quick question for the group. What do you like most about pages if you've used them? And what do you like the least about pages if you use them? And if you've never used a page and never made something in Confluence, that would be good to know too. So pages, again, are that basic type of content. They are, you can think of them like a Word doc, like a Google Doc, just a blank page, which is why I think they call them pages. But they have a lot of features in Confluence. One of the things they let us do is organize our content. And we'll see this live, but there's something called the content hierarchy or content tree on the left. And this is where you can browse through information and you can put it into parent and child relationships. So you can group information. All of your policies, for example, could ladder up to a policies page, or all of your meeting notes could be under a meeting notes page. And For me, that organization is really important because if someone comes into Confluence, they might just take a quick look at it and then can instantly find what they need. And that's very powerful and very helpful. Or if it's not organized, they might get frustrated, which is typically what happens. Now, I've been at companies with tens of thousands of workers, and at an all hands in front of everyone, people are complaining that Confluence is not disorganized. And it's because people didn't take the time, 5 minutes a day, to use this page tree. And Pages let us do that. They also have a lot of features, and we'll talk a lot about the editing options we have in those things. Um, Sorry, just chuckling at this. A client used less than three means last week, and I felt so old. I believe Emily's referring to the heart emoji, emoticon. I forget the term for these things. Luis likes you can move them. Yes, if you have edit permissions, you can rearrange pages. So any user who has that access of edit, who can make content, can also rearrange stuff. And for me, that's where I always tell my team, hey, did you know you can move things around? That makes it much easier to use. So creating pages is very straightforward. There's two main ways to do this. There is a big create button up at the top of the screen. Personally, I don't like that button. I find it's too easy for me to forget which page I'm looking at or which piece of content. And when I hit create, I tend to accidentally make pages in weird spots. And I'll explain why that happens when we get into Confluence. I prefer to use the plus buttons that show up in the content hierarchy because I know that's exactly where the new page will be created. It's also just a habit I built. Again, I was never trained around that create button, so I think I just found the plus button sooner. So it's not bad or good to use one or the other. It's whatever makes sense for us. Wow. Excuse me. I clearly need more coffee. Now, creating pages the new page shows up on whichever piece of content you're currently on. So in this screenshot, if I'm on a page called New Policy and I make a new page, it's going to show up under New Policy. And that's what confused me for a while. I would use the Create button, and I was expecting it to be maybe at the top of the space or somewhere, and it would show up under some random page. I just didn't realize I was on an existing piece of content. Kythra, drag and drop. Yeah, this for me is something that if you don't know, it's mind-blowing, and if you do know, it's so obvious. And it's why this certification exists and why it's important in my mind. It's because people use Confluence for, maybe years and don't realize this is something they can do. I am glad other people agree with me on the plus button, mostly just to make sure I'm not going crazy. So just keep in mind, whatever piece of content you have open is where that page will be made. And this, again, can confuse folks, so it's something I always point out to new hires on my team, like where it is. So a question for the group, do you use templates? Do you even know what a template is in Confluence? If you do use them, do you have a favorite? Chad, I wish IT security and compliance would get with the times. This is a bit advanced for this particular certification, Chad, but I'd be curious to know what umbrage they take with the App Store, or what challenges did they have? Emily, this is an interesting comment. Watching someone else use a system can be frustrating. I understand this comment, but I also see the other side. If it's silly and it works, it's not silly. So in some cases, it can take, I worked with a lot of tradesmen who were peck typers. They would use just 2 fingers. And it drove me bonkers, but that worked for them. They could do their job and be successful peck typing. It drove me crazy because I can type 115 words a minute or whatever with my eyes closed. But they let them do their job. And so I could help them as much as I can. Templates equal life. Ansia uses them a little, created a template for news and release notes. That is a great use case for them. Custom template in Icelandic, love it. Templates are just a pre-built structure on a page. And they are great for a couple of reasons. They help content creators. So when we go in and make a page, we can just go in and it will drop in formatting. This is really powerful, especially for folks who don't have a lot of time or are not as familiar with Confluence as we might be. because you can set them up with a meeting notes template in their native language, and then they can just populate the page with it and fill it out. They don't have to struggle and fight with editing. They don't have to worry about, tables or anything. Whatever they click on is what shows up. Confluence comes with 130 some preloaded templates. So there's a lot of great stuff in there. For the purposes of this certification, we just need to know that they exist and how to get into them. There's a lot more to them if folks want to learn, but I'll keep this focus just on the basics. One important thing is that the space admin, the person with administrative permissions in the space of Confluence you're in, can create and edit these. So one thing I always recommend is go find your space admin. I'll show us how to do this in a moment, and make friends with them. So if you do need changes to a template or need a new template, you know exactly who to go to, and they can hook you up with those changes. Templates are also unique to the space they exist in. And this drove me nuts for a while. I would be using a template, and then suddenly it seemed to have vanished, and that's because I moved to a different space. So that's a very common challenge with templates, and I'll show us all how to search and navigate through them when we open up Confluence. Another important concept in Confluence is children, and this is just defined as a young human being. I'm not sure why this is on the exam, why they talk about kids, but it's there. And I hope some people get the joke. But children in Confluence are pages under other pages. And we briefly saw this in a prior screenshot, but this is what allows us to do structure. I can't hold a straight face that long. This is what allows us to build a structure in that content hierarchy. We can have a page called Meeting Notes or a folder called Meeting Notes. And under that, all of our meeting notes are placed. And then people can come and find all the meeting notes very easily. Oh, thank you. I got 2 LOLs. I'm done for the day. No more jokes. Only serious. It allows for visual grouping, which is very important. Imagine you opened up a Confluence space and the list of pages was just 12 miles long because nothing was organized. It would be hard to find stuff. So it really helps browsing and then management. And there's no upper limit that I'm aware of. So you can have children under children under children under children all the way down. But we typically recommend like 4 layers just for sanity. And now that I'm going to write down, maybe I'll see if I can break it and how many layers I can do. Layers of children. So again, this is just an important concept where pages can exist under pages. In terms of templates, this is a great tip. What Hranar, and I got to find a pronunciation guide, is saying is you can find a template that works in one space and then make it available everywhere in Confluence. Now, this does require what's called an organization administrator or org admin. So it might be your IT team, someone like that. But if you find a template that you think is super useful, or other people in your organization find templates that are super useful, you can share them across your entire organization. So you can get rid of some of that frustration that folks see. George, I was going to say, it's now coming with well over 130. More and more are added all the time. Kythra, again, pulling out the advanced topics, and I love this. Information architecture refers to how information relates to other information. I understand just enough to know what I'm talking about, so I'm really glad that you're here. Please keep dropping in stuff like this because it's really interesting for me, and it'll help folks who are just learning Confluence. But how we structure pages... sorry, Emily, I'm seeing the pronunciation guide, and I'm going to be honest, this does not help me. I'm sorry. I don't know. So I appreciate the help. If anyone's in our Discord server, if you could find like a recording of someone saying this person's name, that would be most helpful for me. And I'll talk about that Discord server in a bit. So back to children pages, very important concept. You did help. You made me laugh. Thank you. Excuse me. So once we get into this system, we'll look at child pages and templates. But in terms of Confluence, I'm curious, what's your favorite editing tool or editing part within Confluence? You could just have responded with, what is it, LMGTFY? My other response would have been, wait, you know about Google too? Wow. All right, onwards. What we're seeing here is a screenshot of the editing toolbar in Confluence, and this is what we'll see at the top of every page. Sorry. Um, for those of you, for those of you folks who aren't familiar, Emily H has been in a dozen of these sessions. We have a pretty good back and forth. Um, Sandy likes the macros and adding pictures. Sandy, macros we will dig into in depth, I think, next week. I will talk about them right now, but this is definitely a good part of editing. Ansia is still loading. I couldn't tell for a second if this was an emoji or something else. Yeah, long enough for the coffee to kick in. Thank you, Emily. Again, folks, please use the chat. That's where a lot of this back and forth is coming from. So if you're comfortable, please dive on in. So editing features. This editing bar shows up at every page, and it gives us ways to manipulate the page. Again, if we use a template, many of these things may have been already populated. But just going left to right, we have the ability to change the font, and I'll put this in massive air quotes, size. One thing to know about Confluence is there's no fonts and there's no font sizes. So it's not like a Word doc or a text editor where you can change the font size from 0 to 10,000. We're stuck using what they call headers, and I'll show you what these look like. Um, this always frustrated me. I'm on the fence about it. It does simplify things. It makes sure every Confluence page looks similar, and it makes it easy because then I don't have to agonize over which font to select. And I have spent way too much time when I build out decks like this trying to figure out what slide do I want. But that's where the font size can change in different types of font. Next, we have what I call text options, and this will be things like bold, italic, underline, strike through, alignment, etc. Recently, they gave us the ability to highlight text. So that's fancy, and that's a little highlighter icon. Um, I haven't found a good use case for the highlighter yet, I'll be honest. Next, we have alignment and lists. So this is where we can visually align and like bump things out, indent or dedent, I think. Kythra, is there an official name for unindenting, dedenting? Um, and I don't know what they call that bit at the end there, but I call it the good stuff. This is where macros and other functionality live. Things like the ability to add attachments, a button to do hyperlinks. And one thing to keep in mind is a lot of these buttons also have hotkeys. We spoke about hotkeys last week, but I've become comfortable using the keyboard to do things like change header sizes or insert links. So I'll also call that out as we go. And again, there's some provisos and limitations within Confluence. There's one font, but many headers, and there's no sizes. So please just keep that in mind. You won't get a ruler for alignment. So if you're used to in Word or Canva or other systems, there's that ruler at the top where you can click on and like drop a vertical or horizontal line. That doesn't exist out of the box. And pasting content in from other places can do fun things to formatting. So just some things to keep in mind. I don't know if these necessarily come up on the certification exam if that's what you're going for, but these are important things just to have in the back of our minds as we use Confluence or as we help other people. I know I've been sitting at my desk and people start complaining that they can't change the font. At least I can help them and explain, you're not going crazy, you just can't do it in Confluence. It's just not something we can do. All right. And this is my reminder to jump into Confluence. Please keep the questions coming. There's a lot of interesting discussions over the Vulcan salute, Chad, I think. Time changes are fun. Not being able to show non-printing characters makes me go insane. I guess, what's the use case for non-printing characters? And again, a little bit outside the context of what we're chatting about right now. So this is Confluence Cloud Premium. Again, I will point out specific things that are unique to Premium. The biggest thing, and I didn't have a slide for this for some reason, is Atlassian Intelligence, or their AI tool that has been built in. That makes sense. LL&P, limited partnership. Live long and prosper makes sense. Judy, is font size something that will be coming soon? Unlikely. Um, Now, when we think of stock Confluence, and you'll hear me use the term stock or vanilla, that just means Confluence with no add-ons. I haven't heard any chatter of adding font sizes or different fonts like easily. There are add-ons though, so if there's a marketplace you can go to where you can download extensions, add-ons. It's like the phone store, new apps that do allow different fonts and things. um, my like as I'm thinking it through from a system standpoint, I would sit down and really consider: is this something we really need, or can we better spend our time and effort trying to find other features, other things? Oh, non-printing character, got you. Um, Not in years, Emily. I'm a Google Docs person at this point. Um, but Judy, to get to your question, we can't at this point access font size, and it's not something I see Atlassian adding. That said, I don't know. Chad, keep going. See how far you can dig, my friend. So this is our homepage, and this is the top level page of this space. So again, a space is just an organizational part of Confluence or an area. It could be for a department or a project. This one is for Heme Tech, and this is where if I click this create button, it's going to make a page on under my homepage. And this is what confused me, because right now, if we look in this navigation bar, I haven't selected a page. I haven't selected a piece of content, but there's stuff over here. And this is where I didn't know what a homepage was. And so I would make pages, and I didn't know where they would go. Now, the homepage is its own page, which is something just to keep in mind. And it's everything in the hierarchy is a child under it, but we can't interact with it directly. So that's one thing just to keep in mind. But this is my hierarchy. These are all my pieces of content. Many of these are pages. We'll talk about the other content types in the future. If there's specific questions, please drop them in. But as folks have mentioned, I can just kind of click and drag these things and put them in new spots. So as long as I have the ability to edit pages, I can come in here and move these around. And I can tell that design has a child because of this little arrow. And if I click it, you'll see how to log in pop up. And I could even take untitled and drop it under design. Or I could take copy test, which has its own children, and even it has grandchildren. I could put this under design. And now I can see that, come on, there you go. Oh, it doesn't want to go. This is fun. Am I going crazy? Do other people see that too? Why can't I? I think I'm going crazy. Well, this is a new one for me. I can't seem to make this a child of other pages. I will stop trying to fight with that right now and get back to our content. But the thing to keep in mind about children is you can just click and drag and make something a child. So now example postmortem shows up under design. Thank you, Emily. I appreciate the confirmation. At least someone objectively is telling me I'm going nuts. /parent. What would /parent do as a... Oh, no. Sorry. I might give that a shot too. I apologize in advance. Yeah, but if I do this, Ansia, then I have to go log into everything again, and I'm very lazy. So this is just a good general tip. Oh, there we go. It's telling me I don't have permissions. Whoa, that was driving me crazy. This is a good general tip when you run into problems with cloud software. So Confluence Cloud is in the cloud. If you have bizarre problems, you can clear your cache in whatever system you're using, and that can help fix some of these things. So those are children. And again, to make a page a child, you just click and drag, and you can unmake it a child by dragging it out. If you can't do this, it's because you don't have edit access. So if you try and click and drag and you get that error that you're seeing I have, there's some kind of permissioning problem. So this is what wasn't popping up for some reason, but I just don't have permission to move something in there. And that's where I need to know who my space admin is. If I don't know who they are, I always can click on space settings and look for space details. And this list right here, admins, it's near the bottom. These are all the people who could help me fix that problem. And so I do this a lot. I go look these up and I go find John Smith and I say, hey, John, I need your help. I can't move this content. And then John has the access and hopefully the knowledge to go do that. So I'm going to go back to the top of this page just by clicking on HeanTech. And this is that home page. And now I'm just going to make a page. So I'll click on that blue button that I don't like, and I'll just click page. You'll notice there's other content types. I will talk about these in an upcoming training that will cover them. I can also make spaces. This is probably something most people cannot do in their day-to-day. I usually don't have this permission. And it's because the companies tend to want to control how many spaces there are, and you don't want just anyone making one. But all I had to do is click on it, and now I have a blank page. Okay. Emily, side topic. I'd love to hear more about what you're doing there. That's interesting. Huh. And I appreciate this guide. I will try to figure this out, so next time I see you, I'll give it a shot. I'm okay with this, Emily, because I like the plus. Kythra, thank you. Again, folks, we have a Discord channel. Let me grab the link real quick and share it. My thought with the Discord is that it's a place we can all interact in between these sessions, ask questions. There's about 20 folks in there right now, but definitely something that you may find useful. So definitely check it out there. So here's my page, and you'll notice it's completely blank. Now, there's a bar at the bottom that has some of these templates. This bar is new in the past 6 months or so. It starts off with a few templates that are common in the space, and then it's got a few macros, and I'll talk briefly about macros in a bit. But you'll notice if I put my mouse over these templates, it kind of displays what they are. So it's showing me what the incident postmortem template looks like. And this helps me decide, do I want it? But you'll notice it's fairly robust. There's a lot of stuff here. Now, there are more templates, so I can click on all templates, or under templates and import doc, I'll get this sidebar. And I need to get my head out of the way. Whee! Now, this sidebar is where we can browse templates, and this is where I get that number 130 or so. Confluence comes preloaded with templates, so don't be surprised if you log into Confluence and there's already 140, 150 of these things. One thing that I never noticed about it and was never taught was you can search through them. So there's a search bar right at the top. I could type in just meeting notes, and then you'll see there's 19 out of 140 that have meeting note in them. This is something I show to new hires on my team or folks who are new to Confluence, just so they know it exists, because this speeds me up. It is a good idea to just take a look at what templates there are, but there's 140, so my eyes quickly cross and I start drooling out the side of my mouth because there's just so many of these things. So that search is really important. The other thing we can do is we can use these buttons to see featured ones. These are ones our admin thinks are useful, popular ones that have been used more frequently. And you can see that there's this giant list of other categories. So if I'm in product management, there's 19 that they think will be helpful. So this is a great takeaway and something that probably will pop up on that ACA-920. But this is also where I can look for templates in other spaces. So this can be annoying, but if I know that the Project JQuil folks have a really awesome template for meeting notes, I could click here and then I could get it from their space. Rohit, I love this question. And forgive me on the name. Can we use Confluence automations to make a new page with a certain template? Yes, we can. We will touch a little bit on automations in the last session in this series. And if I have some time right at the end, Rohit, I will show you how to do this. But there are two ways to easily make a new page with a template. The first is you can just put a button on a page, push the button, and then make a new page with the template. The other is you can set up an automation, which is a little bit more complex, that creates a new page with a certain template. I use that to automate checklists. Every Monday I have to do something. It creates a copy of this template that I can go in and then just go down and tick off my tasks. I also use it for meeting notes that I have to use all the time. Chad, I'm going to call you out here because you love it so much. Could you share some examples just to give folks ideas of what you use it for? And I'm asking that because my use cases are limited to what I do. But Rohit, yes, we can do this, and I will show you in just a moment. So these are our templates. So again, this sidebar you can always access just by clicking the 3 dots and templates and docs if you lose it. If I have content on the page already and I try and insert a template, Confluence is going to be nice, and it's going to ask me, hey, we're going to remove this completely. So we're going to delete what you had. But if you want, we can keep this page, like save a copy, and then make a new one. This is a great backup just in case you build out a page and then add a template. It doesn't lose everything. So just keep that in mind. If you start building it out and realize you have to change, that's completely okay. Now, I mentioned these templates can be updated. Most users won't be able to update them. We don't have that access called Space Administrator. So if you are using a template and you find to yourself, hey, I don't need highlights, this section annoys me, it doesn't work, and you have to do this manually a lot, go talk to a Space admin. And again, under Space Settings is where you can find them. And let them know, hey, I use this, whatever template this was, quite a bit. Let me give this a template example. I use this template quite a bit. I'll come back to publishing in a moment. I need your help editing it. Now, if you forget the template you use, it'll always tell you up at the top of the page. You can see the exact template. So again, I don't know if this particular trick is on the exam, but I find it really useful. It's useful if I need help, if I need to go modify it later, or if I see a page I really like, I can go figure out what template it was created from. Xander, the way I hear this question is, are there templated databases? Yes, there's a type of content called a database. We'll dig more into that in the advanced section. You can make a copy of a template of a database structure. So if you have a project tracker that's set up perfectly, you can make a copy of it that's blank for a new project. Let me have a takeaway there. I think I have a YouTube video, Xander, that walks through these. I'll see if I can find it real quick. If I don't, like I'll send you that video in the chat here. If that doesn't work for you, I'll see if I can just make a quick video during the week for you. And bonus points if anyone has a minute to dig through my YouTube and see if I actually have that video or not. See if I can do that in real time. So that's a template. Again, it's just a pre-formatted page that gives us this structure and content. I think that's the one. I don't know if that's the one. Maybe this is the one. All right, Xander, that video might help you out. If it doesn't have an exact answer to your question, feel free to watch it later. Let me know. I'll make sure you have my email, and you can let me know if that doesn't get to what you need. One thing to keep in mind about Confluence in general is because it's a cloud system, updates are happening all the time. And this is very good because it means things change. We get, this new template bar down at the bottom of a new page that can be very useful. It can also mean that we feel like we're going crazy when something changes. I have a short video coming out because the lock icon moved, the ability to restrict a page. It just moved. And I didn't know where it was. And that's because the nice people at Atlassian made a change. So please keep in mind a lot of this information will be different over time. So when you notice something different, ask around, reach out to me, anyone you know to make sure what's going on. So here's a blank page. We're just going to start from scratch. What do I call this? I'm going to call this JQuil. JQuil is an inside joke. In Jira, the ticketing software that Atlassian has, there's something called Jira Query Language, JQL. My argument is the proper way to say that word is JQuil. So when you see this word, it's made up, but it's the proper way to say JQL. We have to give the page a title. If I try and save this, you'll notice that Confluence defaulted it in for me. And I think it does this using the AI tool. So I'm not exactly sure what will happen if we don't have AI. it might just be blank and you'll get a warning message. So we have to give it some kind of name. That is the only requirement for a page. I could publish this and have a very less than useful page. Just trying to... Ooh. Ladenka, I hope I'm saying that right. This is a great question. I will take this as a follow-up. I don't know offhand because I don't use the calendar function in Confluence. Let me look into that for you, though. That is a very interesting use case. Everyone laugh. Ha 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 ha. Was that? I hope that helped, Emily. So now that we have a page, we can put content on it. And as I mentioned, there's this content bar at the top. So this is the text styles, they call them. As I mentioned, there's no text sizes and no fonts other than these. And you'll notice these aren't even sizes. They're called headings. Headings are very useful because they visually break up text. I tend to use the keyboard shortcuts. So you'll see them here in the gray. So if I do Command-Shift-1, it goes to heading 1. Command-Shift-4 goes to heading 4, etc. Or not Shift. What button is that? Alt? I'm using a PC keyboard on a Mac, which really confuses me when I look at it. But as I'm typing, maybe I have a background section, I can select text, and then just using my keyboard, change the size. Or I can come up here and change the size. Now, one important thing about headers, you'll notice if I mouse over it, I can copy a link right to this header. This is really useful because I could click this, put it in an email, put it in a Slack, put it in a chat, and then folks could get to it. George, thank you. Honestly, I don't know what that symbol means, so every time I see it, I just start pushing different buttons on the keyboard. I know it's one of the 4 in the bottom left, but I don't know which one specifically. I think I've remapped it to the Alt button on my keyboard. Kaithru's got a great point. When we think of our content, and this isn't really a Confluence thing, but just content in general, we don't want what I call a wall of text. So imagine if we just... Is lorem ipsum still a thing? Nope. If we just had a bunch of text on this page, even if it was really good information, something like this would be very hard for a human to figure out what's in here. So headers give us that ability to break up information, make it easier to use, but also gives us this link that we can then copy into. This link is also important because it ties into some macros, and I'll show one in just a moment. There's another editing option I really like, though, called layouts. I clicked it, and it's kind of hard to see what happened because it's very subtle. But if I click it, it basically inserts columns onto the page. So I'll put something in these just so you can see it, but now I have side-by-side content. I do have some options, and I can go up to 5 columns wide. Many columns. And there are some options for 2 and 3 columns in terms of spacing. So in terms of visually breaking up things, I use these quite a bit. What I tend to do on pages is I'll have a background section that just describes kind of at a high level what the page is about. And next to it, I'll put in a table of contents. Now, when I build this table of contents, I'm a very lazy person. So I'm going to add a macro. Someone mentioned these in chat earlier. I can access these in 2 places. I can click this plus, and there's a big long list. Or, anywhere I'm typing, I can just do a / on my keyboard, and then browse or start typing in a name, in this case, table of contents. Now, this also inserts some formatting things. So you'll notice table is in here. There's also a button up at the top to insert a table. I can also insert layouts this way. So if I type in layout, I get options for layouts. This is important to keep in mind because it keeps me at the keyboard. I don't have to stop and move the mouse and look around. So it speeds up my ability to create, which is useful. But for here to demonstrate a macro, and we'll talk more about these, I believe session 8 is advanced features. I just hit enter with table of contents, and you'll notice I now have this little table of contents. But also over on the right, this menu popped up. And this menu has different options for this macro. Macros are just a extension to a page, like a mini program. Kythra, I did a LinkedIn post about this where I was using a Dragon Ball Z meme. It got like 32,000 views for some reason. I'll drop a link at some point. But I saw 5 columns and I was like, wow, that's a lot of columns. Child macro, Sean, that's another good one. We won't get too deep into macros right now. For the purposes of this particular section, know that they exist and that you can browse through them. And when you have a moment, go take a look at what's in there. For me, it's important to know which ones exist because it's like a toolkit. If I don't know I have a screwdriver, I'll never be able to use it. But here I have this table of contents, and it has some options. Not every macro has options, but I can change how it looks. Maybe I want it horizontal. I like this one vertical. I want circles for the bullets. I want heading level starting at 2, maybe. And then I have some advanced stuff, which I won't dig into right now. But just know, for you more advanced folks, you can use regex to exclude headers, which can be very helpful. So now I have the start of a page, and I might... what do I want to say? Why it's important. Why can't I type? Here we go. So I can just start adding content, and I can just start typing like I do normally. Now I do have some other options in the good stuff section. Action items are an interesting one. You can use Confluence as a lightweight task tracking tool. Emily wants to know how to exclude. Yes. It is a very useful trick, Emily. I will... regex talk. I will have a follow-up video, Emily, on using regex. Again, much more advanced than my mind on this one. Now, I had this little button to put in tasks. And you'll notice when I clicked it, it put this little checkbox. Whoopsies. It put a little checkbox. This is a great trick to use, especially in meetings, because I don't have to remember later to go write this down. Why this is important, I put this in a bad spot. I'm going to have a follow-up section. So as I'm typing again, it's just like a Word doc. I can type it in. But then maybe I click on that little button again, and I get a little checkbox. I can now have an action item that I can say, you know, Rob will do something. Rob will order stickers. And then I can insert a date, a double /. And if I hit enter, we'll automatically insert a little date on this. We'll talk more about what this does for us, again, in that advanced section. But this lets me build out to-do lists on my document. Again, very, very useful for my meeting notes. I use this a lot for real-time recording of what's going on. And that task is really useful for me. I can also do things like hyperlink, so Command K. Do I have a link? Nope, I don't. I'll quickly just grab a hyperlink. You can also select text, and you should be able to just paste hyperlinks over it. Let me grab a link that I know works. Whoop, come here. Gotcha. So you'll notice here, I've selected text, and I just paste, and now it's a hyperlink. This is maybe very lazy, and this really messes with me when I use other things, like, say, Gmail that doesn't do this. But it's smart enough to insert the link. Now I can also select text and hit Command K to do the same thing. Oops, come back, Iantech. Now if I hit Command K, I can paste in a link, or you'll notice I can link it to existing Confluence content, Jira content, or Atlas, another Atlassian tool. George, Command K is pretty much a universal shortcut. Like most programs will do this. Kythra. Yes, they are very different things. Emily is still really obsessed with the ability to limit the TOC. I will help you out. I'll post something in the Discord later today, and then I'll have a video on it just for you. But linking is also something I do quite a bit. And you'll notice that this table of contents has started populating with links to the headers. So the table of contents just looks at the header, which is why for me it's important that these aren't font sizes, they are headings. That has the link. Now I have a very basic rudimentary page. I'm just going to click publish, and this could be Command Enter. Publishing is what will make the page live. So right now, only I can see it. This is something that's really important. When we first create a page and don't publish it, the person who creates it is the only person who can see it. And this is something I think does pop up on the exam. So if I send someone this link, it probably won't work. Once a page is published and you're editing it, other people can go in and see that unpublished edit. So big difference there. If the page has never been published, only you can see this. But once the page is published, like I have some, once I publish this, and if I come back and edit it to make changes, other people can see that in progress draft. So here I can decide where it goes. I also have the ability to restrict it. And this lets me say, hey, maybe people can view it, but they can't edit it. This might be why I can't move those child pages. And restrictions are one of the most confusing things in Confluence, if you don't know that they're there. Because I might block editing access to everyone except myself, and then other people can't edit it, and they get frustrated. Or maybe I say, only I get to see it. It doesn't exist to anyone else, and then people get frustrated that they can't see it at all. This is something, again, your space admin can help with. But there is also a More Actions button. And this is relatively new. You can give the version a comment. We'll talk about versioning later. You can also schedule when you want it to be published. I personally haven't used this feature in Confluence. I use it for my blog and other things. But maybe you have an announcement about an upcoming Office event and you don't want it to go live until Monday. You could do that. And you do, oops. There we go. You do also have the option to make it a page or a blog. How do I get rid of, there we go. For those of you blog fans, this is a way to get around templates not existing on blogs. You can publish it as you can use the template to make a page and then publish it as a blog. Just going to put that out there. I'll just click publish. And I get this nice message. And now this is a live page. It exists, and I can see up in my tree, it exists directly under the home page. So if I go back to my content, it looks like I had opened the template example page when I made this. So it automatically made it a child. And this is what can be confusing. Wherever I click that create button is where this will get dropped in. Curious which one you're talking about here, Ansa. What helped you out? And Emily, if you could expand on that one or two comment, just so other folks can understand it, that'd be helpful. So now I have this page, and I can go edit it. So I can click edit or the E button on my keyboard. And this is where it's important to keep in mind any change I made right here. If I add a new section or if I add, maybe I want to come and insert a link or a file I want to upload. If I make changes in here, those changes aren't live. So if I don't click this update button, if I instead close the page, you'll notice that change isn't there. So anyone who can edit the page, though, could come and click edit and see that. However, if you don't have edit access, you won't see the change. So this is that important difference. And I'm bringing this up because I'm pretty sure this will show up if you sit the exam. If I go to edit, I'll see it. But because I haven't published the change, it doesn't exist. Another frustration I've had. If you could. Again, I'm a very lazy person, Emily. So that is basic creation and editing. You'll notice up at the top, Confluence is yelling at me and just letting me know there are unpublished changes. And so that's what happened when I just didn't publish. I do want to show, does it exist? Is it turned on? Good, it is turned on. Again, I'm in Confluence Cloud Premium, so this doesn't exist in Standard, Free, or Data Center. But there is a summarize feature with Atlassian Intelligence. And this will take the page and then summarize what's happened. Now, this is a very simple page, but it's quickly telling me what's going on. So very useful for bigger pages. It also keeps track of changes over time. So if this page is changed by, say, Emily, and I come look at it in a week, this will tell me the difference between the last time I looked at it and right now. So this to me is an interesting use of this Atlassian Intelligence because it helps me keep track of what's going on the page. So if your organization uses Premium, that's a great feature to have and to use. So if I edit this, I also have Atlassian Intelligence in here. I can select text and I can ask for it to improve my writing. Wow, and it made a great improvement. Look at that. This works similar to other generative AI, so things like ChatGPT, Gemini, etc. So I can come in here and prompt it to do things. I can have it help me out. So just know that Atlassian Intelligence exists in Premium and higher. Questions about it could pop up on the exam, but it can do things like help me come up with ideas. It can help me summarize pages. Um, and it shows up as a macro. So if I do a / and just type in, oh, it's right there at the top, Atlassian Intelligence, I can access it to help me do things like change the tone, improve the writing, etc. Personally, I mainly use it for that summarize feature because that's helpful because there's so many people at my organization, it's hard to keep track of the changes. Quickly teleporting us back into our slides. Today is March 21st. Everyone close your eyes for a second. Pretend that didn't happen. Today is March 21st. Whew. Saved by the Zoom. Our next session will be next Friday, the 28th. So please check out some next steps. I have a website set up for this, which I will quickly pull up. There's a top level to the Atlassian study community, which is what I'm calling this group. But under this page, I have one for each of the study sessions. I'll be adding more of these as we go, and I'll be doing ACA-900 next, which is for Jira. But this is a landing page for the 920, and I'll drop this in our chat. My goal is that this page would have all the information you need to be successful for the exam or for questions about it. So it's got links to Atlassian's official page. It's got links to all of the YouTube recordings. It's got a link to our Discord. And then at the bottom, I'm starting to build out more resources like flashcards, little quizzes, things to help us, learn this content. So please feel free to use this. Let me know what you find useful about it or what would make it more useful. I'm just guessing, what do I think would help Rob try and learn this stuff? But if you have specific feedback, please let me know because I want to make this useful for you all and other people. So this is one resource you have. Come back. Beep. Please take time, though, to go play with Confluence on your own. That hands-on experience will be very helpful, especially if you go in and try some of these things. Go make a page. Go try to edit something. See what happens if you restrict, if you can. Hands-on experience is crucial to many things, but will really help what we've learned to gel. This recording is also available immediately, so please feel free to go back through this or prior ones and check out other videos I have. I linked a few, and I'll see if I can get follow-ups on database templates and the regex table of content stuff. But if you have specific questions about Confluence, this exam, anything else, my email's right there, robert@heen.tech. Please pop me an email. Some of you have. It's been a great back and forth. You can also reach me on Discord or on LinkedIn. And I'll drop some of those links in the chat again. But please don't hesitate to reach out. And then, of course, we've got our next session next week. Discord here. I'm just going to go through... see what questions I've missed. Sorry. Atlassian Intelligence, I think, can be flipped off at the org level. So if you have it and you don't want it, you can talk to an org admin about options. But please drop your questions. We've got a few more minutes before I'll pop back into Confluence and keep chatting about it. Not seeing too many questions. All right, back into Confluence we go. What other basic editing things? We've got emojis. I am not the best at using these. You can add your own, though. So this is just a fun thing. You can upload your own files. So if you have something specific you want to add in as an emoji, drop it in. I find using these can help improve engagement on the page. So as I'm editing, I'll put these in. But very useful. Regrets about giving the boomers access to AI. I'd be curious what regrets. I think it would only help them, right? All right, folks. I'm about out of content. I forget who I owed the database questions to, but please be on the lookout for a follow-up video on that. I'll update the one that I have. The table of contents question I'll have an answer for. about regex, and then there's some good discussion about child pages. Be on the lookout too for a blog post updating with updates on all this. I'll answer all the questions and have links back to content. But thank you all for showing up. I really hope to see you in next week's session. Again, there's only 5 of these for 920. But please keep the questions coming. Please like and subscribe. That helps me out. And let me know what other content you want to see. Otherwise, I'm going to keep this chat open for a bit, but I'm going to pull up that beautiful video that I rendered in about 5 minutes in Canva, just as a close video. But please drop other questions, ideas you got in the chat, and I hope to see you all next week.